Apologies that, like always, I'm a month or two late to the party when it came to covering this. Several things happened between when this video came out and today, including the Canadian Parliament honoring a literal Nazi as a freedom fighter in Ukraine's fight against Russian imperialism. There's so much I want to say about this, but to keep my rant short, if you joined the Waffen-SS, you had to not only be devoted to Nazism, but you also had to be devoted to Adolf Hitler. It is possible to oppose Russian imperialism and support Ukraine while also being opposed to Nazis being treated as war heroes. Several organizations in Ukraine, including Revdia, have been fighting against both Russian imperialism and Azov Battalion. But speaking of Nazis, today we're going to respond to Jason Cohn, aka NoWhiteGuilt's video, where he mentions feeling betrayed by country singer Oliver Anthony.
If you're anything like me, the moment you watched Oliver Anthony sing that first sentence into a tranquil Virginian forest, the world stopped. It felt like we were coming out of the dark forest behind him, confused and lost, but suddenly enraptured by an unexpected clearing and the mirage of our pain and sadness put to song by a man we didn't know and, more importantly, didn't expect.
I'm going to get this out of the way before we go any further. I don't like this song. Anthony brings up so many problems society's facing in the song, but he doesn't provide any viable solutions to these problems. What he does do is bring up Reagan administration talking points regarding welfare, and dives into QAnon talking points.
No prominent artists are rewarded with fame and fortune for articulating our sense of sadness for our people's incessant and quickening losses. In fact, the opposite is true. Fame and fortune are heaped on the destroyers.
The fact that NoWhiteGuilt is whining that there aren't any musicians that are as openly as racist as he is, and receiving critical acclaim for it aside, I like to point out the phrases "our people" and "the destroyers." Now, for those who are confused, NoWhiteGuilt is a Nazi who believes that the white race is dying out. He believes that white Europeans are in a secret race war against Africans, Latinx, East Asians, Amerindians, Romani people, Arab Muslims, and Jews, among others, who he refers to in this video as the destroyers, and that white Europeans are losing that war. Dog whistling "our people" and "the destroyers" is why my fellow leftists and I refer to people like NoWhiteGuilt as Nazis. Because, spoiler alert, he is.
Those who attack and disparage our Western norms and great countries.
Yeah, you're not helping your case as to why you're not a Nazi, Jason.
We are censored, cancelled, on every platform, while the destroyers are magnified.
This video was released on August 22nd, 2023, and as of this recording in early October, this video and Jason's Twitter account are still up. But apparently, he's the victim of cancel culture because he spewed some anti-Semitic garbage and people called him out on it.
They're like wolves in that dark forest, tearing our society and our societal norms to pieces. And with each one of those shredded pieces, a piece of ourselves. We haven't lived a moment of our lives any other way. Not a single victory against the destroyers.
Are you going anywhere with this poetic language that you're using to justify your bigotry, or are you doing nothing but wasting my time? Because at this point, it feels like he's repeating himself.
Until, possibly, this moment. As the world stood still, and millions of us watched, and we listened to our pain on the air, in lyric and chord, and it seemed, perhaps even foolishly it seemed, that in song there was recognition, and in recognition a stirring of power that seemed ever so slightly to push back on the darkness in the forest.
And right here is the only reason why this song went to #1 on the Hot 100. Similar to Try That in a Small Town by Jason Aldean a couple weeks earlier, Anthony capitalized on the anger of conservative bigots. Sure, there were plenty of other people who listened to the song, but the most vocal supporters of the song were the same bigots who willingly destroyed their children's Barbie dolls. Also, it's believed that Anthony's attacks against the elites were another anti-Semitic dog whistle that made Nazis like NoWhiteGuilt stream and download the song.
But is the spell breaking? In the days that followed, Oliver Anthony has made curious statements.
Finally, we're getting into the main reason why I'm responding to this video. How Oliver Anthony betrayed the Nazis who helped make him popular. This should be good.
Quote, "He wants to be a voice for humans," close quote.
Honestly, his statement sounds like a typical PR move. Around the time Rich Man North of Richmond went to #1 on the Hot 100, Anthony was getting into hot water with many people on the left, me included, accusing him of making a song of far-right propaganda. So, he made a statement to the effect of, "I don't mind diversity," as a public relations move. Personally, I have a hard time believing him, and if you look at his videos that make your noggin get bigger playlist on his YouTube channel, that has a video from 9/11 True Crimes, formerly known as Truther TV, that blames the Jews for causing 9/11, you can understand why I have a hard time believing him.
That's no voice for our pain and sense of loss. A voice for humans is no voice for us, because it equates our tangible losses and hardships with the imaginary losses and hardships of so-called victim groups.
Imaginary losses and hardships, including the police continuing to murder unarmed black men in the streets, the US's prison industrial complex which targets black and Latinx people for petty crimes, including marijuana possession, and the concentration camps at the US-Mexico border. No. The real victims are Nazis being afraid to leave their houses, and people knowing them for being Nazis.
I don't see our country lasting more than another generation the way we're headed. We've got to go back to the roots of what made this country great in the first place, which was our sense of community and we are the melting pot of the world, and that's what makes us strong is our diversity, and we need to learn to harness that and appreciate it.
Do you feel a little bit like the Creedence Clearwater Revival songs of the past that really had a resonation with like the working class?
Hopefully it represents more than just the working class. This is something that has touched people globally, and there's a reason for that. It's not just for one identity or one group of people. It's a song for human beings in general.
Again, if we dig deeper into Oliver Anthony, especially that playlist I mentioned earlier that I'm honestly still surprised is still public on his YouTube channel, those statements sound more like a typical PR move after Anthony was getting into hot water after people called him out for being a bigot. That's not how Nazis like NoWhiteGuilt see it, however.
A man that is a husband to all women is a husband to none. If you're like me, you're beginning to feel more than a little disappointed.
If you're disappointed now, I'd love to see your reaction after learning that Oliver Anthony identifies politically as a centrist. Side tangent, but centrists often always side with the far right. I'm not going to go into too many details here, but the main example I like to point to would be Germany during both of their Reichstag elections in 1932, the year before Hitler became dictator in January 1933.
I have hope for Oliver Anthony, but I'm already seeing a lot of folks turning back to the woods, because at the moment, this is looking like it was indeed a mirage.
And that was NoWhiteGuilt. All I can say is, wow, that was painful. He probably says even more bigoted stuff in his overlong live streams, including a video where he defended Rage After Storm when she was receiving backlash to her race realism video in 2017. But even a 4-minute video is covered in racist bile. The fact that he doesn't know what a PR move looks like if it slapped him in the face aside, my main problem with this video is that he uses poetic language to justify the most racist talking points on the planet. It not only comes across as pretentious, but unless you know how to spot dog whistles, is something that most people have a hard time spotting, thus making NoWhiteGuilt arguments even more dangerous, much like the lyrics to Rich Man North of Richmond. With everything wrapped up, I'm Danny Quartz, and until next time, thank you all for watching.